There's a myth and common instructor training method that says if you teach adaptive, or also called therapeutic, horseback riding lessons, you as the instructor have to stand in the middle of the arena, and that is where you stay. I'm going to go ahead and unpack this myth and common teaching technique and let you know why standing in the middle of the arena may not actually be the best location, and what other locations are a possibility as an instructor and when you might want to use those different locations to stand during your lesson. My name is Saebra Pipoly. I'm the owner and founder of Hoof Falls and Footfalls, and through Hoof Falls and Footfalls, I'm on a mission to help educate, equip, and encourage fellow adaptive horseback riding instructors around the globe. I have been in this industry teaching adaptive horseback riding lessons for almost 18 years now. And I remember back in my early years of teaching, when I was getting ready for the whole certification process and learning the ropes in the adaptive or therapeutic riding world versus the traditional world, I remember being told that as an instructor, you have got to stand in the middle of the arena because that is how our lessons are run, and that's going to be the best spot for you as an instructor. Now, I get the mindset behind this of having instructors stand in the middle, and how that myth probably originated, to the best of my guess and understanding with having trained many instructors and knowing what new instructors face, is that we wanted to try to layer off the new instructor having to be aware of where they were at in the arena, and also manage all the horses and their students and run the lesson. So we kind of took that piece away of managing your location in the arena and told them you have to stay right here in the center of the arena. That was also sometimes a helpful teaching technique for newer instructors, because that helped prevent them from going out and kind of getting sucked into one student and only teaching to one student, and then hopping to the next one, only teaching to one, and kind of moving down the line and doing pretty much what would be a bunch of independent or private lessons, even though several students were riding together. So when we have a group lesson, the best practice is to teach to the group. So by having instructors stay in the middle, there was an effort to try to set newer instructors up for success and have them teach to the group, and also be able to see all of the horses and students and volunteers in their lesson. However, the challenge with being in the middle of the arena is that if your horses and students kind of start to get spread out here, which is totally realistic and sometimes the case, right? Then you as the instructor, you're trying to figure out where you need to go, how you need to turn to not have your back facing a set of students and horses. So we could either stick by the rule of staying in the middle, or supposed rule, which it's not. We could also then ask our students to regroup, so that we can keep order and flow, and we can keep all those horses within our field of vision as an instructor. Or we can play around with different positions in the arena that set us up for success of being able to not only see all of our students at once and manage things better, but also be able to see more positions of our students. Because when we're in the middle of the arena here, we can pretty much only see a side view of our students, which is okay for assessing side alignment, ear, shoulder, hip, heel. But what about the front and back alignment? Is my student actually centered over that horse? So if we stick with this center instructor location, one of the ways that we could go ahead and have our students come in a way where we can assess that alignment over the center of the horse is by having them come down what we would call our center line. And so the horses would come down here, and as they are working their way down my center line, I could still be in the middle looking at my horses, do a tack check as they all go by me, and then watch them as they go away, and I would stay there in the middle of that arena. You could also stay in the middle of the arena and check this by having your students and horses go across what we would call the midline. of our arena, so the shorter halfway line. And again, if I'm here having my horses come across my midline, I could again check the front of my students, do a girth check as they come by me, and then once everybody is past me, I could check alignment from behind as well. However, there are times where we might want to more frequently be able to check the centeredness of our students, and being in the middle, depending on how the flow is of our arena, the speed of our horses, what the setup is for that day, being in the middle might not be the best location. So there are a few other common locations I like to kind of bounce around between and keep in my mind as I'm teaching lessons to put me in the best position possible to manage my class, keep everybody in my vision, and then also be able to consistently and very, very frequently be checking the position of my riders to make sure that they are sitting as balanced and centered and symmetrical as possible. So one of my favorite locations is to stand more here in a corner. And why I like this location is because I can go ahead and I can watch my students coming down this line here towards me. I could have them pause and we can do a tack check here in the corner if I need to. And then they can come and walk through my corner here, and I can assess them as they go away from me. If everybody gets a little spread out, I could stand here. My rider could be here. They might be behind me for just a split second, but I could have my riders and horses a bit more spread out here if I'm in the corner, and be able to project my voice throughout the whole arena and be able to keep my eyes on everyone if I do need them spread out a little bit more than, you know, that very common like lesson horse nose to tail with 2 or 3 horse spacing in between. Sometimes I want a little bit more room in between here, or the arena setup I have out there, the pattern, needs them to be spread out, and I want to be able to see this whole arrangement here in my arena. Another very common place I might stand as well could be here at my center line again too. So here I could check tack if I need to, while also keeping my eyes on other horses. Again, kind of depending on where they're at, I might be checking tack and kind of facing this way. If they're on this side of the arena, I might check tack here and keep my eyes over here. So lots of different ways I can orient my body to be able to do something with a horse here, and then also watch these horses. With my center line position too, if I'm standing at the end, this then sets me up again for if I have my horses come down center line. I have that whole line to go ahead and have them come at me. I can do that check and then just remind them, hey, we're heading off whatever direction I want them to head off towards, right? And then I can watch them as they walk away from me to check their alignment from behind, as these other horses are coming down the center line, and I can be looking at their front alignment. This can be a little challenging if you're in a really big arena, because being able to project all the way down to that far end can get a little challenging. So what you might need to do in that situation is move to more of like your midline here, so that you are kind of in the middle, going voice projection across the arena, and then to either end. That might help a little bit, instead of having to, you know, because you'd only have to project that far versus that far. So that's something to think about, as well as how far can you project your voice, and what position is that going to set you up for success. So again, here I could ask my horses to come across my midline, and then again remind them what way we need to turn, and check their alignment when they're walking away from me as needed. So this is a really cool way on your center line and on your midline to go ahead and kind of sneak in those checks for your girth and your student's position and alignment. So going back to the corner position, this would also be a good place to stand if you're wanting to work on change of rein across the diagonal. And again, as my horses are coming through this diagonal line here, I can be positioning myself to see posture and alignment, sneak in a tack check if I need, and then I can, you know, shift myself over here as they're coming around and tracking the other way. So hopefully nobody's behind my back, or it's like a second, if anything, because we do want to try to minimize the time that we have anyone behind our back and we cannot see them. So corner, center line, midline location. Think about how you're going to be projecting your voice, how you're going to work in tack checks, how you're going to work in maybe having to go hands-on with a student really quick while the other ones are out there working on the rest of the pattern or their next repetition of the skill. Where I'm also going to place myself in the arena is going to depend on where the more intensive skill or the new skill is going to be performed in my lesson. So if I know that I'm going to have my riders trotting down this far long rail, I'm probably going to be positioned somewhere here at the end, because I want to be able to see my student and their horse coming down that rail. I can also keep an eye on everybody, making sure that they're waiting their turn, and so I don't have a bunch of chaos of everyone going at once. And then two, worst case scenario, if this horse and this student maybe need help slowing down, whether they're on or off lead, I can also come in here and kind of act as a little safety net here as well. Give them a little high five, a good job, and then send them off, and they can do something low intensity, like something that they can do fairly well on their own here. I can still keep an eye on them when they're on this part of the arena as my next student goes down the trot work, but I can still see stuff going on in my peripheral vision here, okay? So where I'm gonna stand as an instructor during my lessons can and should change during your lesson depending on what your students are doing. Another factor we have to consider, especially for those of us that teach outside, I don't have an indoor or covered arena, we also have to be considerate of the wind. So remember that the wind can either work with you or work against you. So if I know that my wind is blowing this way through my arena, I am absolutely going to be standing more on this end so I can project my voice further. Because if I'm down here on this end of the arena, because I like being on my center line, but I'm trying to yell this way into the wind, my students are not going to hear me very well. So keep in mind what your students are doing, what you need to assess during that time. Do you need to go hands-on, do a tack check? Is there a time during our lesson where we need to be closer for a more intense practice time of a skill? What's the weather like? Tons of different stuff. But no matter the location that you choose, just be aware of, like I already mentioned several times, not letting your students get behind your back for an extended period of time. And then also be really careful that you don't get sucked in to one student if you go and do a tack check or address something really quickly with them, that you don't get sucked into them just because you're in a corner or close to that student or whatever it might be. Make sure that no matter where you're standing, you go back to teaching to a group so that everybody can benefit from your instructions and the feedback, and it's a super positive learning experience for everybody. So I hope this helps you guys sort through the different locations you can stand in your arena, when you might want to use them, when you might want to shift to a new position. Let me know, what is your default location for teaching? What's your favorite spot? And then also, were you ever taught that you had to stand in the middle? Were you part of that myth culture of saying that that was the only location for new instructors, especially if you were working towards a certification? I'd love to hear from you down below in the comments. Let me know, and also let me know if there's another topic that you want to learn about or talk about and discuss here through Hoof Falls and Footfalls, because this topic, where instructors should stand in the arena, is a common question I get all the time from instructors. And it was a inspiration for me to go ahead and do this video and do this instructor chat for you guys to hopefully build your toolbox as an instructor, or build your toolbox even as a mentor if you're training up and coming new instructors. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow wherever you are watching or listening. Comment down below, and I could really use your help in spreading the word about Hoof Falls and Footfalls. So please take these episodes that you are listening to and learning from and share them with other instructors. If it is out there, public knowledge, YouTube, podcasts, all of that, take the link, share it. I am totally fine with that. You guys are welcome to do it. This is why I'm doing it, is to give you guys this resource and education. So thank you guys again, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Hoof Falls and Footfalls.